Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. For those that are joining us live, thank you for joining. And if you're watching on replay, we look forward to hearing your feedback at the end of this. But my name is Lola Adeyemo. I am an ERG consultant, employee resource group consultant, and I love hosting these conversations. I love hosting conversations overall. That's why I have a podcast around intersectionality here. But the ERG resource session has been taking a breather for a while. And this is in 2025. There's a lot going on around conversations on inclusion and inclusivity in the workplace. But I started the ERG resource sessions because coming out of our monthly employee resource group calls, I host a monthly employee resource group calls where we have mostly ERG leaders, DEI leaders, and then a couple of consultants and advocates. And what I saw was that need to spotlight some of the things that would be of most benefit to ERG leaders, to advocates within the workplace. So these conversations, ERG resource conversations, are centering entrepreneurs that are doing amazing things, that have built something amazing that could be of help to your ERGs, community partners, right? So I've had nonprofit leaders. I've been able to showcase some amazing nonprofits doing impactful work in the community that ERGs could partner with, and then speakers and resources who are in very niche spaces that we could also introduce and also use to create awareness around certain issues for ERG leaders. So if you're joining us, thank you, wherever you sit on the spectrum, either you're leading groups, you're managing groups, or you're an advocate and an ally within your organization. Thank you for joining us. And there is no better conversation to kick off this season than one with my friend, Ian. Hi, Ian.
Hi, Lola. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'll give a big shout out to Angela Howard and the Call for Culture team for bringing us together in a very beautiful space in Chicago in May. And here we are. So thank you for saying yes to this conversation on perspective over polarization, because polarization itself, I mean, if we all know anything right now, it's a huge part of the world we live in now. It's this huge pull for one versus the other in a lot of different areas. So I'm glad we could have this conversation today. Hian, thanks for saying yes.
Same. Yeah. Thanks for the invitation, the space, and the curiosity. I can't express how much I appreciate it.
Of course. All right. So let's meet you, Hian. Can you give us a brief introduction of who you are before we get to what you're doing right now? Introduce yourself, a little bit about your background.
Yeah, background. If you look at my resume, I've been all over the place. I think since leaving undergrad, I've been a chemist, a high school teacher. I was at a startup doing sales for like 3 months, a management consultant, a product analyst, and then I led DEI at a tech company for the last 3 or 4 years before starting something new that I'm calling Curiosity Architecture, and what has very quickly showed itself to be, or at least what I believe it to be, a tech company. So I think that's what we shared at the Culture Impact Lab back in Chicago back in May, and what I'm excited to share today. And it's a product, it's a tool, it's a language that I haven't seen anything exist like before, and it feels like we need it because I don't know, what we have right now is leading to us eating each other, and I think we can do something different.
Yeah. All right. So tell us about Sonder Curiosity Architects a little bit. What is that? That's a beautiful name.
It's a mouthful, but I wanted to make sure everything got in there. Yeah. So Sonder Curiosity Architects is the evolution of my initial thought of how to approach DEI without saying the words DEI. It is a way to let people belong. Instead of going top down through belonging, going bottom up through authenticity. It is a way to, or it is a company, a brand, a presence that works to give every individual the language to express themselves by translating the human experience into language. What I'm working to do and what this product does is it aims to give the why behind how we feel. We don't just identify with, oh, I'm tired or I'm I'm angry or I'm hurt, but it's no, why is that? Did someone who you trust treated you a certain way? Are you tired of doing so much and receiving so little praise? Are you tired of waiting for something to happen and not feeling like anything's going to?
Yeah.
That level of nuance, I feel we don't have a need for at the moment. So I've worked to map that and then put it into something you can access via your phone.
I know. So definitely multiple layers to that. So before we get to the core of the problem, which I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, what's the problem you're trying to solve for? Maybe a little bit about the journey behind your mission. So you've moved through tech, as you said, DEI, strategy research. What are some of the patterns you notice? I mean, we're in a time right now where traditional equity and inclusion, moving away from trying to use acronyms here, traditional approaches to equity and inclusion seems to be under attack, right? But as we know, people will always seek belonging, right? And as long as we have workplaces and groups of people, we're always going to need to do this work. So looking back through your journey, prior to where we are right now, what are some of the patterns you kept noticing that others seem to overlook?
Yeah. I think the biggest pattern, and this followed just about every room I've been in, especially in the corporate space or in a workplace, is that there's a level of uncertainty and or fear that people aren't just saying out loud. It doesn't matter if it's a classroom with a teacher who is unsure about the material they're presenting, a boardroom where some leader or exec making number amount per year doesn't know what the next step is, or like any collaboration meeting where someone, I don't know, there's a hesitance to say I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw that everywhere. I saw it in the lab. I saw it in school. I'm in school. I saw it with like countless clients when I was a management consultant. I worked in the life sciences / pharma sector, and I feel like there's the foundational pattern that I kept seeing is like, oh, there's a lot of fear in these spaces, and we don't have the tools or the awareness to deal with it. Not because people aren't interested, not because there's hatred, but we were never taught to.
Right.
And so I'm trying to teach myself and anyone else who's curious how to give another layer of language, another layer of understanding, of vocalization, of truth, to how someone feels in a given moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's needed, right? We feel something is not right. We feel we need more of something, but sometimes we struggle to find the words to put all of that together and to communicate. So you said this, I can tell, and I do this also, observing the kind of people I bring on, is a lot of times what we do is not because we built a business plan that was perfect. Is usually because of a need to survive for ourselves, honestly, and then maybe for a group of people, like all the social impact entrepreneur real space, right? So was there a moment that kind of spoke to you where you recognized there is something missing that I need to build here? Is there a moment you can point to?
Yeah. Actually, I think it came with the election. It was right around November. The name of Sonder, my business, company, brand, etc., which that is not my word. I can't claim it. It's from the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Sonder is the profound realization that every person you see, every face in a crowd, every stranger on the street, every opponent on the other side has a lived experience that's just as complex as you are. Everyone is a main character. Everyone has their hopes, dreams, fears, insecurities, and no one is an extra. And so I had that approach for DEI. I was like, hey, let's use this to create belonging. It used to be called Sonder DEI. And the election happened and our country just further got divided. Right. And so for the longest time, I was focusing on let's approach these discussions of belonging, again, bottom up, focus on authenticity. Let's embody the perspective or the realization of Sonder, which is that every person matters. Every person has a perspective the history of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to create tools and frameworks and methodologies to not just recognize that, but embrace it and then use that to be more productive was part of that work.
Yeah.
And a big part of that work initially was kind of unlearning a lot of the assumptions that are baked in with identity. I think identity is phenomenal. It's gotten us this far. And now I think so much of the polarization, excuse me, and the backlash that we see is from what defines an identity. It's the narrative clashing with other narratives.
Right.
And I think the moment things switch was realizing, oh, I have to call this something besides DEI, because DEI is it's focusing on that top down. It's focusing on, belonging for belonging's sake versus let's get there through everyone feeling they can trust the space that they're in. They can feel safe in doing so. They then feel authentic. That authenticity then brings connection, and connection brings belonging. It's a lot longer. It's a lot more intense. It's a lot more vulnerable, but I feel like it can last. And so when the election happened, it's a very long explanation. Thanks for your patience. When the election happened, I was like, well, I can't call it DEI anymore. That's just going to further this divide. What else can I call it? And thought well, what's the mechanism behind seeing all that someone can be? I'm like, well, it's curiosity.
Curiosity.
And so I was updating a few contracts. I mean, it's fine. We can keep this contract. We'll just change the wording. We'll take out race. We'll take out racism. We'll take out DEI, and we'll focus on the core intent, which is looking beyond the labels and the narrative that they assign.
Yeah.
And doing that just immediately catapulted me into that's a lot bigger. It takes a lot more work to structure questions in a way that meets people where they're at, to then question the world around them versus saying you need to do it this way.
Yeah. And I think, we are in very interesting times when it comes to what I call social impact and purposeful work, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that one of the advantages that I've seen is that being first to assess what are we actually doing, instead of just tagging a label and an acronym on everything. I think between 2020 and 2024, everybody claimed to be doing DEI because DEI became a catch-all phrase. And I think it watered down a lot of what people were actually trying to do. And then people who were unaware or being misinformed kind of lost the need to even dive deeper, right? People, this is one of those DEI things. So I love that this is forcing us to re-examine what's behind, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? And are we still committed to that? So is there anything in this whole process for you personally? Is there anything you've learned about yourself? Is there anything this process has revealed to you maybe about yourself?
Yeah, great question. Overwhelming question. Thank you. I think what it did for me, and this is, I'm going back years, I think half a decade to when I started this work, it made me realize how big I was. And not just me, but every other person. And this came from, like most of the country, like most people in this space, and probably, if you're listening now, the murder of George Floyd did something to me. It made me assess, what is race? What does this mean? And it consumed me. I read as much as I could. It's the only hobby I've had for the last 5 years is I have to understand what this is. And so I traced race back to a specific date, document, and individual. I saw when it started, how it started, and why. And then as soon as I kind of saw it's this thing that has been such a fixture in all of our vernacular and what we talk about and how we relate to each other, it was created by some dude in Portugal back in 1453. If you ask why enough, you'll hit a foundation of well, someone decided it was this way, and then we just have never questioned it.
Yeah.
And so realizing it was that for race, I'm well, what is it for everything else? What is identity? And the more I kind of peeled it back, I realized if you move past the narratives, which for me, being mixed and growing up in rural Iowa and then northern Minnesota, just up and down the Midwest, and being the only one that looked like me in spaces where I was told I couldn't be either because I was either too much to be white and I was too little or not enough to be black. I got to observe these narratives without it really impacting me. I could be a bystander, which is painfully lonely and isolating and illuminating. And over time, I got to where I could see that identities, whether they have gotten us so far and let us relate to each other in a group, so much, they're also inherently divisive, because the only thing that makes me, black, I'll do air quotes, everything I'm wearing is from the Gap. Like my favorite artist is Alanis Morissette. I sing John Denver to my kid before he goes to sleep, and I cannot dunk a basketball to save my life at the moment. Like, what is it to be black? And I'm like, oh, like I'm just not white. Like, that's it. If you strip away everything else, what does it mean to be a man? You're just not a woman. Like, what does it mean to be old? You're just not young. It is, by definition, divisive. It's a way to segment a population, to focus on difference and use those differences to quite literally label us.
Mm.
So it's a very long-winded way of trying to answer your question. The thing that I realized the most was like, oh, I'm more than that label. I'm more than just difference. I am. And then nuance. When you get curious, nuance comes into play. I'm like, oh no, I'm both. I'm black and white. What does that mean? And no one could tell me except for myself. And it's like, well, I appreciate, I respect both sides of my family, and I see where everything comes from. And that just kept going everywhere. So yeah, that's.
No, that's helpful. Thank you for sharing that, because I think you're right. I love the word curiosity in your work, because that's the crux of it. I think we are all born into these buckets, into these limited boundaries, whether we recognize it or not. We know as much as we know when we are born, and our perceptions are shaped by what we are told as we grow. And that was so simple, but yes, profound, when you're like, well, what does it mean to be black? I'm just not white. Just not white, meaning white is the defining criteria. And then if I'm not, then I'm something other than white. And that defines everything else. And so just being able to look at things from a richer and broader perspective. And so before we talk about the solution, or your solution, kind of where you worked on, I wanted to just establish that core problem together. So if you had to name the core problem that we're facing under all this workplace polarization and disconnection, what do you think it will be?
Yeah, I think the world, we forgot how to see each other. I think one of my favorite books as a kid that I get to read with my 3-year-old now is a Sesame Street book called "We're Different, We're the Same." And it just goes through like, oh yeah, our noses are different, like, but they're the same. Like, our ears are different, they're the same. Like, we are so wonderfully alike in so many ways, both physically, what we see, and this is what my work is leading to, emotionally. Like, there are realms of feeling, there are frequencies of vibration, wavelengths that we occupy, states of being that we inhabit, that we literally don't have words for. So instead, the default creeps in. It's like, well, if you don't feel great all the time, then like you're bad. You need to feel shameful for it. And if you're not performing well, or checking every box and acing every test, then like there's something wrong with you. It's like, there's nothing wrong with anybody. We're just, no one's broken. No one hasn't arrived yet. We just don't have words to describe the complexities of all that you are.
Yep. I remember, my son is 12 now, but I remember a conversation I had with him post George Floyd, trying to figure out how to check in with him, how to introduce the concepts of whatever, make sure that everything is okay with him. And I was like thinking of, how your friends are all different colors than you. How do you think about that? And he said, well, just like houses, houses are different, but everybody has their own home. And it looks different. Sometimes our homes are brown or green or blue, but it's your home. And so he's looking at me confused, like, what do you mean? Like, home is home. Wherever everybody lives is their home. It doesn't matter what it looks like. And I was like, You are very correct. Because I think he was like 8 or 9 then. And I'm thinking, okay, he gets it. He
Yeah.
gets it. I wanted to check in to make sure because, again, he's a Black kid surrounded by a lot of multi-ethnic people in a school, and it's 2021, and there's a lot of conversation going on. So I was doing a little soft check-in, and that was that very vivid. I'm a very visual person. That vivid description just really stuck with me. That as a child, as a human, he sees homes. He has friends that lives in different kind of homes, but he just sees it as, oh, it's your home. It could look very different, but it's your home. And I was like, that's exactly it. We're all different in a unique way, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, and nice work on protecting, cultivating that, I will say, like, wisdom in an 8-year-old. Like, that's remarkable. And I feel like simultaneously tragic, because then
Yeah,
it means, at least for me, I'm extrapolating that out a bit. It's like, oh, the fear, that pattern, how that what is normal to be an adult, being an adult is forgetting that.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
structured unremembering that, like, no, we're all pretty much the same. We're just different perspectives of the same thing.
Yeah. So what do you personally, what do you think people are actually longing for in the midst of all this polarization? Is there something you think everybody is looking for?
I haven't. I feel, I hope, because it is the foundation of my work, that everyone just needs to feel seen for a moment. And I feel like if someone truly feels seen, if someone can use the right words to go like, no, you're not alone. I've been there before, and you don't have to carry this by yourself, or like, that feels like it must hurt. Can I sit here with you as you hold that?
Right.
You don't have to be any certain way. Just
Yeah.
space, presence, stillness.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, that can change. That can change the world,
Right.
because it feels like, and this is also part of the pattern, everything around us doesn't let us have that. The goal isn't
Right.
to be seen, it's to do the thing. Get it done, do it
Right.
well, gold star, stay in the green.
Yeah. And I gave a TED talk, and my TED talk was about belonging being not about fitting in. And I think the other side of the coin of everyone who just wants to be seen that you're talking about, though, especially when I put it in the context of the workplace, is seen truly, because the fact is everyone is kind of wearing a mask.
Yeah.
We get to the
Yeah.
point where we wear masks and we try to fit in, and so we're seen, but we're not really seen. So to
Yep.
your point, people just want to be seen for who they actually are, not
Mhm.
who they're pretending to be, right? Not what the world tells you to be, but being seen for who I am. And so it goes both ways. Is being able to show up as myself so that I can be seen and welcomed for who I am.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. There's a metaphor to yes and to that. There's a metaphor I love using, and it's just like, imagine watching a play. If we collectively are saying, like, everywhere you are, at the grocery store, picking up your kid from school, going into work, like, that is a stage. We are all
mhm.
performing in some way. We're performing through the labels and the masks that we've been given.
Yeah.
Identity is that character. What are you? Are you a man? How are you going to play a man today? Are you black? How are you going to play black today? What's that like? That there is a set of expectations, narratives, rules,
Right.
unspoken rules you play based on your character. And I
Based on,
think,
yeah.
exactly. And I feel being seen, to kind of second what you said, is being able to go like, I'm tired of doing this, or
Yeah.
like, I'm exhausted, or I'm hurt, or like, this wearing this is really heavy and it needs to
It's
stop.
exhausting. Yes, yes. No, so anyway, if you're listening to this, we're talking about perspective over polarization. And I think it's a great starting point for a lot of conversations in whatever space you are all in. It's part of why, we do the work that we do in the workplace. It's part of why ERG leaders seek those spaces, part of what they try to build in those spaces. But let's talk about your tool now to kind of wrap this up, because I think we could talk about some of these questions
Give me a
that I
few.
have.
Yeah.
humans and workplace all day long. But let's talk about solutions. So you have a link for us, right?
I do, and I am unable to get the StreamYard thing to connect. So I can, do you mind if I share it with you to type
Let
it
me
in?
see. Yeah, share it with me. Is it the allofyou.io?
Yes, it should
Okay.
be.
Let me put it in the chat. Is that okay? Yeah, I got it. I'm going to
Thank
post
you.
a link now for those that are listening or watching this. So tell us about allofyou.io. Tell us about this link.
Yeah, so this is the domain that I purchased to give a link to. It's just to AppSheet. Right now, this is and not even a beta. It is an alpha product. It is just testing proof of concept, kind of the entry point into a technology, a system, a new way of being that I see based on 3 questions. And these questions aim to serve as a diagnostic and a tuning mechanism to help anyone going through it. And the goal is for it to be anyone. Accessibility is like the biggest concern right now. Feel seen in some way. So what it does is we are working to assign perspective over identity and letting people relate based on how they see the world, how they believe themselves to be, and what we believe all of this is, in place of a name tag that we have to follow up and perform for. So I think if you go to that link, well, I think before you do it, take 3 minutes for yourself, or make sure you have 3 to 5 minutes for yourself. You're not checking email, we're not playing Candy Crush or anything like that. If you have kids in the background, like, wait until they go to sleep, just take a minute and then open it. And there should be an introduction page to kind of summarize what we've been talking about here a little more succinctly. And then you have 3 questions. And the first question will assess your intent, not assess, let you choose your intent. Do you want to analyze your behavior? Do you want to understand more of yourself and kind of like through a therapist lens? Or do you want to explore the unknown? Do you want to have your emotions, your feelings, your perspective given back to you in a more poetic, whimsical, ethereal way, which is how I see things that I'm trying to. From there, you'll be asked one question, which is, how are you feeling right now? And you'll have, I think, 14 options to choose from based on exactly in this moment, which it could change from moment to moment. How are you feeling? And then from there, the questions, or the question is the same, but the responses are dynamic. It's, what is it like to be you in this moment? This is the training wheels almost for introspection. It's like, if you just said how we feel, why do you feel that way? What is it like to be you in this moment? What do you see? What's missing? What are you longing for? What are you happy for? And choosing from one of those options. And once you choose that, this prototype, this glorified landing page, will give you 3 buckets of things. The first will be 4 things that you might not have heard. It'll be thoughts that you've had but haven't said out loud, a dream you might not know, a fear you aren't sure of, and something else that I can't remember. We'll then move, and all of those are based in kind of the current paradigm, the current perspective that you might hold. How you see the world. Is it rooted in what beliefs is this perspective rooted in? How do you believe things to be? This moment right now that no one else has seen before, because you can't. No one can see what I'm seeing right now in this moment. No one is standing at this place at this time looking at what I'm seeing. And
Right.
if somehow they magically were, they don't have the 30 years of lived experience to make this moment mean what it does to me at this time. So this is my attempt to give you language to do that for yourself. And so the first section will kind of try to frame or paint what you're seeing, what you're experiencing. The second section will give you 3 questions to experience something different. It will give you 3 prompts to uncover, explore, and reimagine the beliefs that shape how you see things in this moment. And then the third part is, it's just one prompt. It's a challenge. It's something that you can do at some point. There is no rush to challenge those beliefs and experience something different. And those challenges are: cry without apologizing. Like, let things get messy. Don't complete something today. something that goes against everything we've been taught all the time. And as someone who neurotically tries to keep their house clean, is really tough for me too. And then from there, would love your feedback. If it resonated with you in any way or made you feel seen, please let me know. This form, that link, is completely anonymous by default. Nothing is collected on you or about you unless you want to know more, unless you want to kind of follow this journey and receive emails at some point when I figure out how to do an email list. It's just for you. And I think that needs to stay core to what this product is. Like, we're not selling your data, you know, for anything. We're not trying to manipulate you or sell you anything. It's just a mirror. If you give 3 to 5 minutes of your time and the vulnerability to introspect and the authenticity to answer those questions with how you're feeling, I'd love to know if it worked for you.
Yeah. Please connect with Ian on LinkedIn. Connect with myself too if you have any feedback. But the link is in the chat. Is allofyou.io. And so to kind of wrap this up, I mean, we had a very brief, very short conversation on the current state of work, where we're all feeling right now, and maybe some of what got us here, our different perspectives that we bring into these, and then what we think some of these solutions will be. And thank you for sharing this powerful tool, which I think will be very helpful. But I also want to pose that question directly. So for employee resource group leaders, and these are group leaders within organizations and the organizational leaders, you know, HR people leaders who are feeling stuck in some of this traditional approach, not really feeling like there's much they can do. What will you want them to try next?
Do you mind if I reframe the question just a little bit?
Yes,
because it's not, I don't think it's trying anything, but it's try believing something different, which I feel, and I forgot to share it before, so many of the problems in corporate culture at work come from this foundational belief that just isn't challenged, that I see causing everything that's wrong. A lack of innovation, a like burnout when it comes to culture, just not feeling seen at work. And I think what's making work really tough right now, and that belief, that assumption, is that there is one universal truth. There is one right way to do something or anything that everyone has to find. And the closer you are to it, the closer you perform to knowing what that truth is, then gold star, exceeds expectations, bonus, promotion, you did it. And I think something to try is what happens when you challenge that belief. What happens when you start thinking, believing, realizing that there is no universal truth, that truth is perspective, that everything someone sees is true to them.
Yeah, it's true to them. And I think even understanding that maybe is a good ground for giving each other grace, because then we begin to have actual conversations instead of coming at conversations from like extreme sides. Is seeing so maybe the word I'm looking for is, so I talk a lot about intersectionality. I have a podcast called Thriving in Intersectionality, and I try to, and I think what I'm really trying to do is similar to what you're saying, is we want to expand our lenses. We're all stuck in looking at the world this way. And if there's anything, you know, people will take away from this conversation, is to seek to expand and broaden, you know, our own view, right? See beyond what you know or what you think you know, and stay curious in conversations with people that don't look like you, even the people that seem to look like you. Staying curious, because their experiences are very different, right?
And that's such a, like, thank you for that I almost said simplicity, but straightforwardness. Like, those two words, I feel like are a superpower. Like, stay curious. I think so too often our conditioning has led us to greet one another with a familiar question. You know, it's 3 letters. How are you? To which, without thinking, at least for me, I'll go, good. You know, like, oh, it's fine. There's no introspection. There's no reflection. If you think something to try, if you shift that question just a little bit, instead of saying, how are you? What label are you wearing? How do you identify? Instead say, what's it like to be you right now?
Yeah.
It's a whole different world. You can
I
respond
think
with a metaphor. You can
we,
use anything.
yeah, and I think an example of that for me is leave. So I've been doing a lot of traveling across the US recently, and I was just thinking of how it shifted the way I had people ask me, "Oh, you live in California," and then it's either people say you live in California, and then they start to talk about California to me. And in some of the things they are saying, I'm like, I live in California, but I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like, oh,
It's a
you live
big
in
state.
California, or oh, you live in California. It's always like, I know something about California. I've never lived in California, but I know something about California that has to be true for you because you
And I'm
live
going to
there.
tell you about it.
Yeah. And then, but I see the best ones I have is when people tell me, oh, you live in California. Oh, so that's good. What does it feel like to live in California? And I remember the first time somebody asked me that, I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting. I'm so used to people just saying I live in California and beginning to make all these assumptions about the weather, about financial status, about my belief system, just because I said I live in California. And
Mhm.
then when somebody asked me, oh, what is it like to live in California? And
Mhm.
that made me pause and think, because now I get to tell you what it feels like to live in California instead of listening to you tell me what I should feel like. And then I just have to smile and accept it because I don't want to offend you because we're strangers.
Yeah. And I think you sharing that makes me, of all things and people, think about my mother, of all people. My mom's one of my closest friends. We talk every week. We exhaust each other, and the last few years have been tough because my mom's political leanings have shifted from how I grew up. Grew up very liberal, very very left leaning, and in growing up they have shifted. She's become much more conservative, and what's happened is using that question, not just how are you or like what is, but like no, like what, why, like genuinely, instead of being like no, but you
You
did this.
understand your perspective. Yes.
Exactly. Oh, you voted for Trump, or like you're from California. I know, and going, no, why did you? And
Right.
in
And I'm
doing that,
seriously curious. I want to know what's behind. I'm not making any judgment now. I'm just curious.
exactly. And I'm not trying to prove a point. I'm asking this question to create space for you to fill however you want, and
Right.
I'm listening intently because I care about you so much. I don't want my belief of what your experience to be to get in the way of that.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, I think if we had, it makes me think of Michelle Obama. Like if we, like when they go low, you go high. It's like, what if you go so high that you pull someone else up with you? You help them see something about themselves they weren't sure of. Or, like what's it like to live in California? Give someone else the chance to reflect on their experience in a safe
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um, Thank you for the real conversations today. For those that are listening, I hope um, if there's one thing you take away is to stay curious and use that tool as you will. Share it with somebody, share with your team, share it with your friend, and encourage people to stay curious. I mean, there's nowhere we're all going to get to by being divided. And when I think of the workplace, it's like we got to work together to complete a project, a task, the mission of the organization. You have to work with different people from all walks of life. How do we hold space for each other so that we can work well together towards our common goal?
Mhm.
Because I genuinely think, some people at the core of it, people don't mean harm, they just don't know better, right?
Yeah.
So if we give each other space to learn something new, I'm from Nigeria and born and raised in Nigeria, and I've had people that will come at me with this genuine pity and sadness for being born in Nigeria, and I'm like, why are you sad? Why are you sad? Have you ever been to Nigeria? And no, they don't even have an international passport, but they feel so sad for me for growing up in Nigeria, and I'm like, wow, why?
Yeah.
You could ask me what it's like to live in Nigeria. I could tell you about how colorful, how culturally rich, how diverse our food and language is, right? Ask me what it's like before you make an assumption about my life based on what you hear in the news or what you think right? Staying curious and holding space for each other. Someone just said, I think holding space for each other is very underrated. So we need to make room for that so that we can work well together and support and respect everybody. But thank you, Ian, for this time. Thank you for the work that you do. We're looking forward to where these tool goes, right? Because the tool is just a tool. Ultimately, we need people. We need actual humans. We get it. We'll continue to hold space. We'll continue to have conversations. And we'll love your feedback. If you use this and you love something about it, or is there something you wish you could learn more, please share it. Share with me, share it with Ian directly, post about it, and tag somebody else. Would love to hear from you. Thank you, Ian, for your time today. If you're listening and you're an ERG leader, I hope you join us. We Employee Resource Group monthly, every month, every first Friday of the month, we're gathering in a virtual space. It's Employee Resource Group leaders across companies. We call it All Things ERG. And the idea is we're all about Employee Resource Group, whether you're leading it, you're an executive sponsor, you're managing it. We are about empowering these internal workplace champions so that they can do it correctly, do it supported, do it in the right way that works for everyone, not just their group members. So join us next month. The only caveat is July 4th to 2025 is the 4th of July in the US. So for the first time that's interesting because I think that's the first time in 3 years since I started hosting this call. We're moving it from the first Friday of the month because we're like, okay, nobody is going to be joining a call on the 4th of July. We're all
no one's doing anything on the 4th of July.
Yeah. So we're moving it to July 11. But depending on when you're listening to these, we get together every first Friday of the month. And we're also putting, I co-host this with Monsieur Owens, the founder of the ARG Homegirl, called the ARG Homegirl. But we are also looking into creating a space just for ERG program managers because, that's just a whole different bucket by itself. So watch this space, stay connected, stay plugged in, and share what you love to hear next. Thank you, Ian. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Yeah. Lola, thanks so much for the space and the intentionality and the curiosity. It means more than I can express.
Thank you so much.